Yes, thank you very much, and welcome to the next panel, which I'm giving. Unfortunately, Mark Swoboda, so the CEO of Sontex, is excusing himself. He's a little bit sick, so I'm speaking also on behalf of Sontex. Yeah, and let's get started.
Ich heiße Marcel Gatz, bin Verkaufsleiter West der Sontex Deutschland GmbH und gemeinsam mit unseren Partnern UPLINK und Kolb Energieservice realisieren wir gerade das LoRaWAN-Projekt in Karlsruhe.
Mein Name ist Georg Kolb, Inhaber der Firma Kolb Energieservice. Wir rüsten aktuell in Karlsruhe eine Liegenschaft auf Funktechnik um. Wir verwenden dort die LoRaWAN-Technik. Aufgrund der Gebäudestruktur setzen wir das Ganze um mit der Firma Sontex und der Firma UPLINK.
Mein Name ist Shubi Molay. Ich verantworte den Bereich LoRaWAN bei der UPLINK. Wir sind der bundesweite Netzbetreiber für das Internet der Dinge auf Basis des LoRaWAN-Standards.
Mein Name ist Philipp Roth, ich bin Geschäftsführer der DIV, Deutsche Immobilienverwaltung GmbH. Wir sind gerade dabei, in unserer alten Anlage gemeinsam mit unserem Partner Energieservice Kolb die Ablesegeräte auf den neuesten digitalen Stand zu bringen. Die unterstützen uns dabei, wir sind in dem Prozess schon weit fortgeschritten, gucken jetzt, wie es funktioniert und bauen dann unser Netz weiter aus in Karlsruhe.
Mit den Geräten sind wir komplett fernauslesbar, entsprechend dann mit den Vorgaben der Heizkostenverordnung und das Ganze ohne Einsatz eines einzigen Gateways.
Gemeinsam mit unserem Partner Sontex sind wir dabei, die deutsche Wohnungswirtschaft zu digitalisieren. Mit dieser LoRaWAN-Installation erreichen wir nicht nur dieses Objekt, sondern versorgen auch noch alles im Umkreis von 18 Kilometer mit LoRaWAN.
So yeah, just as a brief intro, what we do, and to give a little bit background, who those companies are. So UPLINK, I'm based, or as you've seen in the video, I'm working for UPLINK, and originally UPLINK is the market leader in FM broadcasting. So our background is building physical infrastructure, building antennas on top of towers or on top of rooftops. This is where we come from. We operate those FM broadcasting stations at more than 500 sites with over 750 frequencies in the FM broadcasting business. And yeah, based on our experience in the FM broadcasting industry, we decided to move into IoT and to focus on the LoRaWAN standard here there. Yeah, and we were looking very deep into the standard and what kind of approach is the most feasible for us to build a nationwide network, because that was our goal from the very beginning. We very quickly came up that the most suitable and forward and most sustainable solution might be to put up a decentralized network based on Helium, because it was merged at the same time when Helium came up. We were also building out our LoRaWAN strategy. For this reason, we have seen Helium. Like as the most quickest way to generate nationwide coverage. And this, of course, is not only based on us. Most of you have heard about Helium, and in my view, Helium is like, or what I like to call it, it's like a peer-to-peer LoRaWAN network operators who are creating LoRaWAN coverage all around Germany, but also all around the world. Yeah, and this is happening in Germany at more than 20,000 radio sites which are online right now, and creating coverage or reaching the population in Germany for around 60 million, with 60 million residents, and we see very dense coverage, especially in urban centers. So Munich, for example, is fully covered. Hamburg and all other larger cities in Germany have multiple redundant coverage based on Helium, which is super great. But now we can finally utilize the network, and this is what we're doing, because we see that providing connectivity is cool, but not the only way to unleash the potential of IoT. So that's why we focus to develop use cases which scale, and that's why we partnered up with Sontex. Sontex is very deeply or very old player actually in the submetering industry. They're not only focusing on LoRaWAN, they switched to LoRaWAN recently, but originally they had their own radio standard called Sontex-UPLINK, then they also do it on OMS, and now they see the next technological curve for the metering industry with the LoRaWAN standard, and that's why they built those kind of end devices, which you might all know, for example, water meters, heat cost allocators, and WOMS meters. As an interesting side fact, the heat cost allocator of Sontex is one of the only ones, together with Zener in the market, which provides the LoRaWAN standard, and this is quite unique, and and all that is made in Switzerland mainly, and together we are trying to move now those business forward and to generate that use case in Germany and based on helium especially. So to give a background about submetering, so we are all facing the same challenge. We want to generate the submetering use case on LoRaWAN, but face same challenges, but have different perspectives here. And for the end user, what we always see, like very respectfully and frankly saying, he couldn't care less about the technology. For him, it's not about the technology so much. For him, it's about complying to the EU regulation, and which is especially the heat cost regulation to receive energy data remotely and to access energy data remotely, so they don't need to enter the building anymore. That's the obligation based on the European Union law, and it's an obligation for remote readability of measuring equipment for consumption recording, as well as intra-annual consumption data, and of course the billing information which comes afterwards. For Sontex, it's also a challenge to scale that use case, and they were looking for a network operator because what Sontex is really good at since more than 30 years is building end devices in that industry, but they don't want to build a network because not because they cannot, they could, but it just makes more sense for them to focus their strengths on building perfect and very precise metering devices. And for us as UPLINK, we are also not end device manufacturers. I mean, we could go also into that market, but it doesn't make sense at all. So we just focus on what we can do best, and this is network operation, providing connectivity, building connectivity, and basically creating coverage, creating LoRa coverage for those use cases. And that's why, we came up and integrated a whole solution for the submetering industry. So we have the whole infrastructure chain on our side. We can do that now. So Sontex is device manufacturer, as you know. Like we are doing the network coverage. And the main reason is that the end user doesn't have to do it anymore, because when we speak with the end user, and especially Sontex, who's in well contact with end users in the German submetering market, they also noticed that like the end user really isn't interested to deploy gateways. He's just doing it basically because, or in the past he did it because he didn't have another choice, because there wasn't coverage. And now with this model and this concept, we make it for the end user actually super hassle-free. So and that's what the market appreciates a lot. So that's, I mean, in the video you have seen a project in Karlsruhe. And the other project is, for example, in Bergischen Land in Germany. So it's in North Rhine-Westphalia. And the end customer is Bayer IBIA, which is a metering service provider in that area, and already purchasing Sontex devices since many years. And Bayer IBIA also started out to deploy their own gateways back in the days, and then noticed it's so complicated for them, especially not only to install them, but especially to operate them in case, for example, incidents happen, the gateway switched off, or there's no network connectivity. What can they do? So so they really wanted to outsource that business and not doing it anymore. And that's where we came into play. So in an area of 200,000 square meters, there are around 4,000 of those heat cost allocators, and that's super interesting now, because we as UPLINK, because we are based on the Helium network, we didn't deploy gateways there, and but there is coverage, and of course the end user, he doesn't know that those heat cost allocators are actually running on a blockchain and on a totally crazy and cool and innovative network. And in my view, they shouldn't also know. I mean, it's cool if they're interested. It's open and it's public. But in the end of the day, it's about providing sustainable and good connectivity. And this is what's happening right now. And those devices are sending every 9 hours a data packet, and it's working super fine, and that's why we continue with that approach also. So the result, what we see here, or what we can summarize, is basically that the end user, for example, billing companies, they can just focus on what they can do best, and this is creating or providing billing services without needing to think about the technology, the devices, or the network to receive those data. And in the Bayer IBIA case, as well as in the Karlsruhe case, it's a massive increase of operational efficiency for them, and which also links to cost efficiency at that time. As mentioned, it's for Helium, it's probably one of the largest scalable use cases in Germany, and one of the most unique use cases, because we have finally some usage, what we always were looking for since years, and the network is there, the coverage is there, but also the use cases are there, and this is the first one, and the next one will continue. And we could finally see that LoRaWAN is not only a standard we always talk about, but we also see in the market, it's in the field, it can be deployed, and especially it's used by us, but also by the end user, and therefore, the go-to standard for submetering. And as a final result, so it's not only based on Sontex and UPLINK to revolutionize, or I would say rather to create this evolution of submetering, but especially that we need the end user, and the end user is helping us to provide LoRaWAN in the submetering industry. And in case there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Do you have your own LNS?
Yes, we built our own LNS based on ChipStack, and the Helium network is integrated in, so we integrated the public network, but of course we can also deploy private networks based on that LNS.
And you're doing that as a LoRa Alliance member, so you're leveraging the net ID assigned from the LoRa Alliance, or did you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Correctly.
Do you process the data itself, or you just transfer it from your LNS to the application server of the utility, for example?
Okay, yeah, we are processing the data from our LNS to the application server of, or to the platform of Sontex actually, and they are pushing forward the data to the billing service, and based on that they are creating, or they are modifying and analyzing that data and creating the billing. Yeah, yes. So it's going through. Yeah. Yep. Thank you very much.